do again.
Okay. Yeah. Hello.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about, we've just had a little chat about it, haven't we? And we're going to talk about what we feel is a good way of representing an aspect of mastery in life where you simultaneously really genuinely care while also completely you don't give a shit. And this is like in all areas of life, and that both are necessary in order to thrive and to be happy and to be balanced and sane.
So this has been reflected to you in a few different ways. Is it just about the aspect of caring or not caring, or do you mean that? Because you can look at that, you can kind of, what's the word, like you can blow that up and look at the different paradoxes that go on, like in the different frequencies that people are at, because sometimes a person at this frequency and a person at this frequency are going to, like, there are anomalies in how people perceive reality.
So how they actually how they employ that will vary depending on where they're at in the journey, I guess. Yeah.
What was it that so can you put it in context with how it's come to you?
Yeah, so I've just felt it in a few areas with work, with people, with even little things like that, you know, house and bills and all that kind of thing, and possessions. It just seems to be like, I can see how it applies everywhere, you know, but there's been a few examples this week, particularly with work, where, just as an example, you know, so I'm taking on a particular piece of work, and the behavior that I'm kind of having to deal with, which isn't anything, you know, particularly troublesome, but it was enough to kind of make me look at, you know, how the world works, how people work, you know, all of the nuances and complexity in that. And it made me just think about, okay, I really do care, because I'm a caring person, and I do, you know, I think about everything, you know, like, and so probably because of childhood trauma as much as anything else, I want to do the right thing, and I want to have integrity, and I want to be real, and, you know, and being kind of caring and understanding and supportive and helpful and strong, you know, they're all part of that, you know, they're all part of that same bubble for me. But if I only did that, then I have done that, you know, in times gone by, many years ago, I guess more so than now, a lot more so than now, is where if you only do that and you don't also get into that space simultaneously, where you're continually letting go in the moment and you really don't give a shit at the same time, for me, it's very necessary, because that creates the balance for me. You know, and if I only was in that other space of really not giving a shit about anything, you know, then I wouldn't be somebody I'd want to know. Do you know what I mean? So that's why, you know, it's just really come into my mind that we have to do both in life, and if we can do them both simultaneously about the same thing, then we're not just going to be okay, we're going to thrive, because we're holding the light and the dark in our hands healthily. Yeah.
So it's about polarity. It's about being in a universe of polarity, as well as other things. And like you're talking about non-attachment, because like I think it takes ages to understand that non-attachment, because like I'm sort of familiar with it from like a Buddhist perspective, like the idea that if you're attached to people and things, stuff, objects, or jobs even, that you're clinging. So you're clinging on to this external. So on some level, you're giving your power away by being attached, because then when those people or that job or those things don't work out for you, or you lose them, which quite often happens with people and things, part of your personal power has kind of been taken from you. So but like it's hard to understand, because people are kind of like, well, are you seriously trying to tell me that I shouldn't be attached to my family? But that's not, obviously you're attached to your family, and obviously there are family bonds, and even with friendships, it's about your, like, at the end of the day, we're all the center of our own universe, and we only can control our own universe, and we can't control other people's. So attachment is disempowering us to some degree. And actually, it does bring like a lot of freedom. I'm still working on non-attachment, but yeah.
When you were saying about families, the family is a great example, and how would I describe that? So to really care, to really love and care for your family, to be honoring of them and supportive of them, and all that good stuff that's part of being a part of a family, and also at the same time to completely not give a shit and to be completely unattached.
Well, we can't control them, and like I'm sort of thinking about a client that I had yesterday. She's kind of like a young person struggling to sort of find her place in the world, and she's got that like enmeshment trauma. So when you're so enmeshed in the business and the staff of your family that it's almost like you're one organism, like you're one like group think. And so I'm trying to teach her to like separate from her family, not in a bad way, but like cut the cords and kind of stand on your feet and think your desires and your choices. And because it's like, her mum is like, you need to get your driving test done, and then you'll be independent in the world, And like this girl, like she's got like loads of things going on emotionally. She doesn't want to do the drive, she doesn't want to do it. So it's almost like her family are forcing her into a situation to do something that is just stressing her out, and she's got other things that are more important to her to sort out. Like she can't go there, but they're like, well, you're under my roof and we're paying your way, and that's the way that you become independent in the world. And I'm saying to her, that's their way, that's what they're saying, that's their brain, their wisdom, their knowledge, their understanding of the world. That's based on their reality and their experience. That's not you. So you need to separate from what isn't you. That level of attachment is seriously damaging, because that depersonalizes you. Like if you don't heal enmeshment trauma, your life is really pretty difficult. You know, that's been my life.
Yeah.
So like separating yourself and finding yourself, like finding out who you are, is absolutely vital. You know, even when people are against you being you, you know.
So there's definitely an important thing in there, isn't there, about working through, you know, as we heal, working through the layers within ourselves and identifying, you know, in all the different ways over time we identify, don't we, how we've been programmed, you know, how you know, either you know, subtly, and it usually is subtle, or it's like, you know, overt, you know, from our childhood, you know, and all that stuff that comes down the family lines, recognizing yeah, all of that programming, and it takes a long time, doesn't it, you know, usually. And obviously all the enmeshment that comes from all that programming, you know. Yeah, it's huge. Just as you were talking, you were making me think about, like, what's a really powerful, what could be a really powerful quick thing to do that could kind of, that anybody could do, that could really allow them to really go into those polarities just in their own space, in their own mind, which will then allow them to come into the center and have some sanity. And so for me, it was like having the two personas on. So the first one is, well, let's say we're talking about family, right? So the first one would be, oh, you know, I really love and care for you, you know, genuinely love and care for you. You know, just want to help, you know, do the right thing, be, as much as I can, be a, you know, a good human being in this dynamic. And I want to help, you know, I want to, you know, how can I love and care? How can I be more of that? You know, all of that good stuff. So to really kind of spell that out, say it out loud, or envision family members in front of you or whatever. And so that's that persona. And then kind of just put that one over there for a minute, and then bring in the other persona, and, you know, have the same people in front of you and be like, I completely, you know, with respect, I completely and totally do not give a shit. I do not give a shit at all. It's gone. There's nothing there. There's nothing there for me to give a shit about. No fucks given, right? Boom. So that's the other you that also needs that for its sanity. And then so you end up, so you've got those two of you there, and then you're kind of back in the middle, and you're like, okay, you know, I can do both. You know, I can be myself, my own person, you know, and look after me. And part of that is, you know, completely being non-attached, you know, but also at the same time, that other persona, which is really loving and caring and supportive, but not losing themselves to that dynamic.
That's what it is. Yeah, like, so many people are lost because they're in that sort of pattern of people pleasing. So it's kind of like being what other people need you to be. So having to be a certain way for someone. And like, obviously this all happens subconsciously. Like, these are patterns that it's really difficult to see until you've like stepped outside of it. It's pleasing yourself versus pleasing other people. And there's this, just the world over, and every single week I find myself trying to explain this to people, and that kind of myth of selfishness, like if you serve yourself, if you go for what you want, if you're powerful in the world, if you step into your truth and you start speaking out loud about things that make other people uncomfortable, you're sometimes just seen as self-absorbed or self-centered or even narcissistic, or But obviously that triggers people who have an issue around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
indeed.
this is quite a meaty, sort of complicated situation, really. But like self-love and selfishness are confused all the time, and like the image of Narcissus looking into the pool of water and like falling in love with his own reflection, it's kind of like misleading, because people just think, oh my god, that person really loves themselves. But like the truth of it, like the actual reality of it, like those people that we see that are arrogant and they think they're the best at everything and they like the sound of their own voice and stuff, like those people are actually quite self-absorbed and selfish. Like, but self-love, when you're giving yourself what you need and you're nurturing yourself and you're honoring, like, needs are needs, do you know what I mean? It's not wants. It's not kind of like, but then, you know, why shouldn't we have what we want and need?
Yeah, absolutely. And you reminded me as you talk there, how often do we hear people say, I mean, I know we do all the time, but you know, I'm sure other people do as well. If you don't love and if you don't genuinely love and care for yourself, how can you do that for other people? And how can you allow other people to do that for you? It's very difficult.
Well, once you understand that, like, the world becomes so much simpler and easier as well. Like, if you love yourself, if you meet your own needs, you know, even if no one else is meeting your needs, if you learn to meet your own needs, then you're going to draw to you what it is that you desire and need. Like, if your needs remain kind of unmet and you're like still struggling to sort of get your basic needs satisfied, that's all you're going to get coming to you, you know. So if you love yourself, you focus on yourself, you separate yourself, you become an independent person in the world, you come out of that enmeshment and you start learning about yourself, you learn what you need and want, and you give it to yourself, then that's when you overflow into the lives of everybody else around you. That's that love, like being filled up with love and then flowing into the lives of other people, cannot be selfishness. Although people looking in from the outside who don't understand what you're doing at first can perceive that as selfishness, because you've probably taken your attention off them and like cut off their supply that they were getting from you. So when you suddenly realize, like, you know, when there's an imbalance in relationship, so as soon as you start to feel, actually, I just give to that person and I don't get much back, you know, you're going to get depleted. That relationship's not going to work. You know, there needs to be a balance. So people will often throw the selfishness thing at you because they're feeling that you've withdrawn in some way, or that you've taken away something that they were entitled to, or, you know.
See, and that is, I mean, I know we've experienced this lots of times in our lives in different ways. Like, that is how the system is set up, right? That is how we're programmed.
We're back to the narcissism.
Well, we are, because like it's unavoidable, isn't it?
All roads lead back.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you're born into this narcissistic system which programs you that way.
Yeah.
And breaking free of that programming is huge. And then like watching sometimes the backlash from people who haven't broken free of it yet, you know, it can be really tough. And that's what you're describing there, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unavoidable, isn't it? You know, that one.
I mean, I've been working with a woman who's like in her 70s, and she comes from like a traditional like European family. Like, she's like in her life now, she's in her 70s, like she's learning how to stand in her own sovereign power, you know, because she's got all these brothers, and she's got all these people around her that were kind of younger than her, and she was like the mini adult, so she had to look after the younger ones. So it's kind of like they're her, it's like a relationship almost like they were her kids as well as a sibling. But all around her, like we had this session where she was describing all these problems that she had with all these different people, and it was the same issue. And it was that they had expectations of her that went back historically, pretty much like years and years of her supplying them with something. And it was different for each person. For this person, it was money when they fucked everything up. For this person, it was like attention. For this person, it was like driving them somewhere. For this person, like, and it was all kind of like, then if she says no, I've got this other thing to do, or I can't do that week, or, you know, she's racked with guilt and then feels terrible. And like, it goes against all the traditional family values that she had drummed into her, kind of thing. But it's never too late to unwind all of this, you know. And it's hard, like if you've got all these like hose pipes into your energy system, and other people depend on you and rely on you for things, and then you suddenly turn around and go, actually, I've had a change of heart, I'm going to value myself more, and I'm going to spend more time on myself and doing things for me. Those people are going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
And that's only because you gave your power away for so long. They think it's theirs. They think that they own that thing. They think that they're entitled to that thing. And they're not you.
Absolutely. I love
it isn't you. It's like, shh, you need to like be you, like be you. Like all these people, like, and myself included, and you, like all of us traumatized. If we'd all been sort of like, if we'd come into the world like this new baby, if our parents had looked at us and gone, oh, I wonder who this, you know, being is. I wonder what they will choose to become, and I wonder what paths they will take, and, you know, I wonder how beautifully their life will unfold, and they'll show us who they are. Like, and I wonder how we can help them be them, and how can we nurture them and like help this being blossom into their magnificent potential. Like, if that had happened, we wouldn't have hose pipes into our energy system. We'd have like this beautiful interdependent kind of like gang around us, because we'd just attract people who, like, you know, they'd share their gifts with us, and we'd share our gifts with them, and like it would all be complementary, and it would all just work.
Yes.
But we were born into the world, and then our parents were like, right, yeah, he's going to be a doctor, or yeah, we're going to make him love us in the way that we were never loved, or he's going to live the life that I wish I'd lived, or, you know, he's going to do exactly what I tell him, and, you know, I'm going to have all this power play and like play out all my kind of like, you know, early childhood trauma through this.
And also I can have this extension of myself that I can write the world with, or I couldn't do it myself. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Like, our parents saw us as an extension of them. Like, we just had to keep quiet and do what they wanted. Like, we didn't have choice. We didn't have an identity. Like, we weren't allowed to exist as a separate human being. Like, we didn't have a voice. You know, we weren't allowed to really develop preference. And, you know, like, so many people are wandering around in the world today, no idea who they are, quite understandably. Like, if you're enmeshed with your family and you're basically doing what they want, especially if you need to do that in order to survive or like feel safe, like if somebody will abuse you if you don't do what they tell you, of course you've lost yourself in them, because you're constantly tuned into them, like anticipating the next like hideous attack on you, or, you know, whatever it is. Like, we are all so lost, and lost is like for sure the thing.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I love that we're talking about that. It's important, some important sides to it there. You also made me think about I was going to say, yeah, that we're when we get to this, when we recognize this, we are breaking and ending generations of conditioning and programming. You know, it stops with us, and it is huge. And that's often why, right, it feels so overwhelming, not just for us, but for the other people involved, because it's all they've ever known. And not just that, it's programmed into their cells, it's in their DNA, it's in our DNA. And to do all of that work, to deprogram and to be free of it is fucking huge, you know, and no wonder it's so difficult.
Yeah. And like we were saying before we put the video on, it just goes on, and it's like you clear something, and then you're like, right, okay, now I'll move forward without that pattern, and then it comes back round again, and then it comes back round again, and yeah, it is different each time, and there are so many aspects, and you have to address a different aspect each time, and there's probably something that you missed, or an emotion that you didn't acknowledge, or there's something that will bring it back round again, you know. And like, maybe we are clearing stuff for the collective, maybe it isn't just all our stuff at this point. But yeah, to actually sort of step into the light of yourself is excruciatingly difficult, like really difficult, and you just feel rugby tackled from all sides. It's mainly like from yourself and like your own subconscious. I mean, you know, when I first set my business up, you know, friends of mine were actually, well, most of them were quite supportive, but like, you know, one of them actually said, "Don't believe in that, Jen." God, it took me ages to get over that. And you know, that kind of like, that feeling of eyes on you, like knowing that people think that you're taking a risk that isn't going to work out, or knowing that people are looking at you cringing, thinking you're about to embarrass yourself, or, you know, it's so hard because, like, on a physiological level, very basic, like cellular level, if you step out of the tribe, you're facing death. Like, that, you know, if you're kicked out of the tribe, which many of us have been, you know, that is basically, you're on your own, fending for yourself, and on a primal level, that's like the most difficult thing that you can do. And, you know, all of us that are out there kind of speaking our truth against this spiritual, you know, war situation that's happening, you know, the things that people are going through, it's absolutely mind-boggling, like what people are going through in order to express themselves and kind of fight for or stand for, you know, what they know in their hearts to be true. You know, if you've got that knowing and you've got that elevated perspective, you can see things that other people can't see. You cannot not go in that direction. It's impossible. So you've got that like drive, which you know is your truth, you know, it's your mission to go forward and do that thing. But you've also got like 99% of the people you know are not where you are. They're not where you are, not anywhere even remotely close to like what you're perceiving, what you're thinking, because they're not you. And you know, there's no judgment. They haven't lived the life that you've lived. They haven't seen what you've seen. They haven't got it. They don't get it. They're still enmeshed. They're still kind of in the middle of all of that. Like, if you're standing on your own over here and they're all over there and there's all of them and there's one of you, that goes against everything that is natural about humans. Like, we're a group species and we need each other.
Basic human needs, right? This is the thing, like that, like you say, I think that's one of the most difficult things. We've all got these basic, you know, survival in that back of our brain, you know, survival needs, and to have the strength, and I guess that spiritual side of us as well, that gives us the strength to do that, to really break free. Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? It's just enormous. It's a gargantuan task, but you know, when we really start to get somewhere after initially so much difficulty, it does become worth it, right?
Yeah, it does.
You just reminded me, I was just going to say, sorry, you just reminded me about in that moment of being outside of that group and sort of standing on your own. that's also probably, when you're really feeling like that, it's probably also a good time to do the persona thing again, where you're like, I don't give a shit what any of you think at all. Like, at all. It doesn't, like, whatever, you know, like, I don't care. I don't care at all. And then also to have the other persona to come back in of, I do care, absolutely. You know, I do understand where you are, and I do, you know, love and care for other people, and I get what's going on over there. And I can see that people are having their own struggles and probably trying to find their way out. And that's okay. And I can allow for that, you know. But again, to hold those two polarities, you know, for our sanity while we do that work.
It's a journey, isn't it? Because for myself, like, I found it really, really hard to not care what other people think. Really hard. Like, I've busted it now, I think. But like, going back to sort of the early days where I first started to wake up and stuff, when I tried to talk about stuff and somebody would just look at me funny and, like, you know, put me down as a conspiracy theorist or whatever it is, it was a pain in my body. It was a pain, literally a physical pain in my body, not being accepted, not being understood. So sort of the more that you go on, you start to heal that pattern, and you start to care less about what people think, and you really, like, properly move into that. It's not that you suddenly don't care. It's not that you suddenly don't care about what people think. It's that it's just that the veil comes up, and you just see where they are. Because you know, when I was really caring what people thought, like, I was so still enmeshed, like, with them. I was still tied up with them and attached to, you know, I need to be seen as good by that person. I need to be perceived in a certain way, or, you know, that's my friend. Like, is this going to, like, damage my friendship? Or, you know, like, once you realize how the only way to nurture and support yourself, and the only way to get into the life that you want and to heal all your patterns and stuff, is actually to do things that other people might not like or might not approve of. Like,
yeah,
it starts to not matter.
You've just reminded me. I mean, I think this topic is, we're just talking about the subject for another day. What was I going to say?
And it was a squirrel, and it's gone that way.
Oh, the squirrel's gone. It was something very close to that, though, that's really important. It'll come back to me. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, it'll come back to you. Yeah, I was thinking about what you said as well, sort of from a slightly different angle. So, attachment versus non-attachment. So in terms of, like, you know, when people are trying to move closer towards their goal, you know, I really need to live in this certain type of house, or I need to get this kind of job, or I need to get this many subscribers, you know, for my channel, or, you know, whatever the thing is. Now I forgot what.
I love this stuff.
No, I've remembered.
You got it. Go on.
And the squirrel came back. Yeah. No, it's gone again.
I love it.
No, it's back again. Yeah, so you're kind of like, you know, when people have like a craving, and it's kind of like, I simply must have that thing, and you're just kind of like, oh, I've got a real thirst for that thing, and you go at it and you go at it, and it's like you force yourself, and you do long hours, and you don't sleep, and you go to the business meetings after hours that you shouldn't do, and you neglect yourself, and you abandon other people, and so you go all hell for leather for this goal. Like, and I'm not saying that hard work doesn't pay off, because it does. You know, we have to take action in order to ground, you know, and manifest, and, you know, but it's like you say, it's like you have to have, you know, a balance, or you have to have not necessarily a balance, because balance is sometimes a bit misleading, but for you, you have to have, you know, you've got to make sure that you're not overdoing. Because in terms of the law of attraction and physics and all of that, like, If you're forcing and you're forcing and forcing and trying, you're actually holding that thing as far away from you as it can possibly get, because that energy isn't going to magnetize that thing to you. Like, non-attachment actually will, but that's not what we've taught. So you can set your intentions and sort of know that you're going in that direction, but the more you're at peace with that desire, and the more that you can drop into, okay, I'm going to take action towards that goal, and it's going to feel good, you know, and kind of allowing it, you know. A really healthy way of doing it is, you know, I wonder how the universe will bring that to me. I wonder how easy it could be. I wonder, like, how much it might surprise me, like how it comes. So if you haven't got a fixed idea of, this is how I get there, I've got to go like the clappers, I've got to force. If you can be open to getting there in some other way that might be orchestrated, kind of, you know, ways that you haven't seen, like hidden ways, if you can just allow it to come, that's actually going to be way quicker. But obviously, if we were all taught that in school, things would be a bit different now. You know, the world would look amazing, probably.
Yeah. You've reminded me of something I used to say I haven't said for a while, but you know, a few years ago, it was something that kind of stuck. Was these words of something like, hold it and let it go. You know, love it and let it go. Focus on it and let it go, and just keep doing that. You know, because you're then in balance. So you're focused, you're taking actions, you know, you're holding something in a good energy, and then, you know, almost instantly you're also letting it go. So you're dropping your attachment to the outcome, you know, but and so you're not forcing, but you're staying in a flow. And like, that for me is like, I haven't really thought about that for a while, but we have to do that, don't we?
Flow is the answer. You know, that flow state is what I try to be in, although I do find it difficult sometimes. But like that, what we were saying about balance, like balance can be really misleading, because, you know, people talk about work-life balance. That's insane. Like, when you think about it, it's insane, like a work-life balance. You know, the work-life balance that a lot of people of working life has is unsustainable. Like, working, you know, 40 hours a week, or more than 40 hours a week, whatever, like, is bad for you. Surely. you know I remember when I used to work full time as a teacher, like, I would go to work, I'd be there at the crack of dawn, like 7:30 or something insane. And then you're working with the kids, and everyone's like, oh, teachers get to go home at 3:30. You're there like till midnight marking fucking books, and then Sundays non-existent. So, you know, that's just modern day slavery. You know, that was another topic we were going to talk about. But you know, a work-life balance isn't going to work for 5 days and having 2 days off. You know,
absolutely.
But for each person, it's not good. Like, there shouldn't be a working week. Like, everyone's different, and everyone has different drives and motivations and enthusiasms for life, and that there's different, you know, ways that people want to work. Like, if you can make your work part of your life, so if and I'm not saying like work all the time, of course you have to stop working, but if you can weave your work into your life as if you're not at work, like if your work can just feel like you, like,
so you're creating a life that you're not trying to escape from, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that whole, oh my God, right, you know, it's Friday night, we have to go out and get pissed now because this is why we go to work, you know, that whole, I'm so knackered and I've had so much of a shit week that now I need to go out and like have all my fun at once. Like, this is my like several hours of fun with my friends. Like, is that it really? Like, you're limiting yourself to like joy once a week. You know, how about joy every day or every hour?
Absolutely. Living in joy, right? I mean, this is like, I believe this is what we come here to master in the end, you know, is to live in a state of joy. And so we're not trying to escape because we're exactly where we want to be.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So well, that was really good. So how did we word it at the
The
beginning there?
squirrel.
Yeah. Just thinking how we worded it at the beginning. So having, you know, an aspect of mastery in life, which is to genuinely deeply care while also simultaneously, you know, letting go, you know, being non-attached and not giving a shit.
Mm.
The two are necessary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Yoda said, didn't he? Oh, I never get this right. Something like do
Do or don't do.
or do not. There is no try.
Yeah.
And he was like well clued up about the law of attraction. Because yeah, do it or don't do it. Don't say, I'll try and ring you at 6 o'clock. It's like, well, ring at 6 o'clock or don't ring at 6 o'clock. It's like pick a lane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't have like solid, clear intention and it's just wishy-washy, I'll try to do that, you're just saying to yourself, I'm not committed to that.
Yeah. And trying
I'm
is
not
also,
committed to phone you at 6. No.
yeah. And trying is also very close to forcing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty much the same energy. But what are we told to do at school? We're told to try your best.
Try your best.
Try your best. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think we did a really good chat there. That was yeah. We nearly went into a few other areas, I think, which will be for other chats. But yeah, that was
Well,
a good one.
it's always going to come back round, isn't it? Well, everything's about narcissism or interdependence, isn't it? Which are polar opposites. And
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to keep coming around, you know, as we talk. Like they'll just keep dropping in because it's like fundamental.
I think we need to have a video about interdependence, because when I've talked to people about it, people don't know what that is really. And it's so beautiful. And I've only really been plugged into that for a short time. And I've only just started to understand that myself. So maybe we'll do that next.
I think so. Yeah, I'm up for that.
It's the answer.
Yeah, agree. All right. So, okay, we're done.
It's that time where I have to press the stop button.
Yeah, find the stop button.
Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you too.
Bye now.